daydream. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I see we've got some type of announcement on the top of my screen. We'll get rid of that during the commercial break. Already starting with 3 virtual waves this morning. Thanks for kicking it off with us. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. But that threw me off with the... Anyway, so I'm your host, Frank Acom. I hope that doesn't distract you on top of the screen. We'll get rid of that during the commercial break. Okay. Yesterday, we had Sheriff Jim Allard on the program from Steuben County, of course. Really enjoyed talking with him. And because of the interview, we had received a lot of comments from viewers right before he went on the air. I did not have a chance to read those comments from viewers because they were not necessarily germane to the conversation with the sheriff. So I thought we'd start the program, what a great way to start, with viewer comments. Then we are going to talk about timing on this. The resignation of the Colombia president after all of those anti-Israel protests. Imagine handling the situation as poorly as she has. I mean, I'm glad it's happening. But what, with maybe a month before school starts? we'll talk about that. We also have quite a few things here, obviously, about the Harris campaign, the Trump campaign, a few New York State issues, all that and much more. But first, here are the comments from yesterday's program from viewers. And again, thank you. First off, Trump became one of the best presidents in my lifetime for conservative values by being who he is. Being who he is has always energized the public in ways that stereotypical politicians can't. That's a very good point. This is from Ken in Horseheads. And he has more, but let me kind of interject here. Not being the stereotypical politician is what defeated Hillary Clinton, who was such the stereotypical politician. I remember at the time people were saying during the primaries, the only way we can beat Hillary is with Jeb Bush. And they said it about other candidates that I won't point out, but Jeb Bush is the one that specifically still sticks in my mind because they thought it was going to be politics as usual. Now, Hillary Clinton and the Clinton machine would have destroyed Jeb Bush, as we know. We needed someone in the debate that would be like Donald Trump, that was a fighter, that wasn't willing to give in to the normal political, we'll say, garbage. For instance, pointing out to when Mitt Romney was debating Barack Obama, and I believe it was Candy Crawley, but don't quote me, interjected and quote-unquote corrected Romney on Benghazi. She was wrong. Romney knew she was wrong, but he shied away and allowed her to, quote, fact check, incorrectly, mind you, during the debate. That's the typical politician response. That, as you know, is not the response that you get from Donald Trump. But continuing with Ken's comment, Trump should remain who he is. If I wanted him to be something different, I would vote for whoever the Democrat candidate is. They and most other politicians can change at will to be whoever they think we want them to be, which is exactly what Harris is doing. I can't remember the outlet. I wish I could. I do so much show prep in the morning. But they don't say flip-flop anymore, or they don't say change. They said as in a positive way. They were saying this in a positive way, as Kamala Harris takes a U-turn from past policies, as if that is okay. We know she's distancing herself from the ticket she's been on, or the White House she's been in for nearly 4 years, completely distancing herself from those policies. So yes, this is, and by the way, if you didn't join us yesterday, this was in relationship to the question of does Trump need to change? Some of the talking heads in the Conservative Party are saying we need a different Trump. Now, I do think the Trump that we saw at the debate was very important, a more disciplined Trump. I think there is a time and place for that, don't get me wrong. But if they want him to be a Jeb Bush, and I think J.D. Vance said something similar, Trump's his own man. So if you're expecting something different, you can expect all you want, but it's not going to change. Trump is who Trump is. And if you want the same old stuffy politician, you had opportunities for that in the primary. So I appreciate your point, Ken. Different comment. Please help me understand why Democrats are okay with Harris when they have no say or no vote. That's the million-dollar question. I think it's just because it's anybody but Trump. I don't think, and I would say it goes back to the Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton race, where the fix was in and Bernie had absolutely no chance, even though he was packing in rallies, doing making major moves. There was no way he could ever win because the Democrat elites had already picked Hillary Clinton. I think they must just be used to it. Now, I would open the floor, please, to anybody that would want to comment that is a Democrat. Is that okay? Again, when I've talked to people, and it's anecdotal, but it's just, I don't want to vote for Trump. I'm not going to vote for Trump. I would never vote for Trump. So if they ran Mickey Mouse, I'd vote for Mickey Mouse over Donald Trump. And if that's the attitude, that's fine. But it's also hard to be lectured about democracy and these type of things. But it's also, I just don't know, and I'll pose this to Republicans. How would you feel if the shoe was on the other foot and this was how everything went down in the Republican Party? If, for instance, Trump said, okay, you know what, I'm not going to run, dropping out, and I'm nominating or endorsing, I should say, I don't know, Pence. We'll say Pence, just because that was a VP trying to equate it. I just don't think it would go well. But apparently, I have not seen anything, just like we've seen nothing about the scandal of the cover-up of Biden and his mental health for 3.5 years. We're not seeing any kind of media attention on the fact that not a single Democrat had voted, and I was corrected. There was the kind of the almost like the Nikki Haley scenario, that even though she was on the ballot but had dropped out, people still voted for her, so she received, some vote, 800 some votes or something in a primary. But you understand the crux of the argument, that no one, let's even say this year then, 2024, no single Democrat voted for Harris to be the nominee for president of the United States, and yet here she is, and not answering questions to the press. Now, there was minuscule pushback on this. I don't think we'll see too much pushback on the fact she's done no interviews. I think as long as she can run out the clock, the media is fine with that. All right, next comment from a different viewer. I'm thinking and hoping that the media coddling Harris will backfire. I mean, most people are smarter than the media think. Yes, they are. And I think there will be a lot of people outraged over this. Maybe at first they say, okay, but then as we're not getting any real policy substance, she did talk a little bit about the economy yesterday. She's going to put out a plan that I guess targets price gouging, which proves that there's inflation, and the price gouging is an excuse that they use. We know that Biden was using it as well. That is, if it's big business, this big Dorito or big whatever, Lay's potato chip is just trying to make a fortune, so they're giving you less. No, of course it's inflation to keep it to a price that you can kind of afford. But no real policy on her website, not giving any interviews. I do think the American people, maybe at first, that we're saying, oh, well, this is new energy, may be fine with it. I don't think that lasts for 3.5 months, but I think that's their game plan, and they're going to hope that it lasts, and the media is going to be fine with it. Continuing a different comment. Frank, just a thought. Which person is more likely to vote? The person motivated enough to go to rallies, or the ones who's sitting in his room on social media? Well, that's a good point, too. I don't know. That's one of the talking points in the media, is that she has momentum. So they're hoping that that'll encourage people to go out and treat it like it's 2020. That could be. I think the people that are willing to stand sometimes 6, 8, 10 hours, 12 hours to get into a Trump rally, yeah, they're going to get out and vote. Yes, I would agree with that. And finally, the last comment that we missed yesterday. I wish Trump would push the facts. He stopped one of the auto companies from moving a plant to Mexico. Point out what he has done. Tell the people he could have done more if he wasn't dealing with the stupid impeachments. Push more of the food and gas prices during his administration. Ask the public if they want more of it. Thank you, Frank. Well, thank you. All amazing comments from viewers. Keep them coming in. That was from yesterday. And thank you for joining us. Wow, that's already the first segment of the program. Just with amazing viewer comments. We are going to take a short break so I can get that thing off the top of our screen. And then we'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Hesselsen's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselsen's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselsen's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Hi, I'm Sam. Welcome to Pangea Global Tea House.
Pangea Global Tea House offers comfort foods of the world. Over 50 teas, a sampling of cuisine from over 10 countries. Globally inspired cuisine and striving to give you an ultimate experience. Come in and try the Frankly Delicious Turkey Club Special for just $20, including your beverage of choice. Pangea Global Tea House. Yet a really good tea house bringing you the flavors of the world, offering something for everyone.
You rip and tear your old statements and bills, but thieves use this information to steal your identity. Don't be a victim. Get the ID Police, the new ink roller that encrypts all your old documents. So before you throw it out, just roll it on, and your information is gone, both on the front and through the back. even if the paper is held up to the light. Even your medical information is safe with the ID Police. So block it out before you throw it out. Order now and get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 and get free shipping too. This offer is not available on Amazon, so call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 with free shipping. Order now. Not available on Amazon. So call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as
or visit
$9.99 with free
getidpolice.com.
shipping.
So call
Order now.
1-800-898-1002. Order now.
Call or click now
That's
to get your ID Police for as low as
Or visit
$9.99 with
getidpolice.com. Call
is on Fox. I mean, just feast your eyes on this. Because if baseball is as American as apple pie, then Fox Saturday Baseball was one heck of a slice. And with these guys on the menu, all you gotta do is sit back, relax, and make some room for a big old helping. With a cherry on top.
Oh, I'm getting caught up fixing that on the top of the screen and reading viewer comments. I think we are good. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Aiken, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So glad that you joined us this morning. A comment from a viewer. It is simple. The reason that you don't hear any resistance against not having voted for Kamala Harris, meaning the Democrats not voting for Kamala Harris, is because the media doesn't pursue any negative comments pertaining to Democrats, unless directed by the Democrat Party, like what happened with Cuomo, and I would add, and like what happened with Biden. That's what was so fascinating to watch after the debate. And I know I talked with former Congressman Joe Sempolinski about it last week. It was so out of the ordinary, and I hate this term, but so unprecedented to see the media going after Democrats, even for that short week or two, that it was a much-watch TV. You couldn't turn away, because that they, for a brief moment in time, could understand what it's like to be a Republican politician, because they're not used to any type of pushback. And that's why we know when Kamala Harris says she's going to give an interview, one before the end of the month, it will be a sugar-coated interview. It'll be easy as pie. All right, I want to just mention this quickly. I don't want to harp on it, but I think it's an important update. Embattled Columbia University president, Monique Shafiq, suddenly resigned yesterday and is escaping back to her home country after leading the elite institution for less than a year that was marked by constant and sometimes destructive anti-Israel, anti-American, anti-police protests. Shafiq announced she would be stepping down from the Ivy League in a letter to the student body and blamed the, quote, period of turmoil for her shocking departure. Now, she was in a tough situation because the American people saw the destruction. They saw the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel language, the attacks on the Jewish students, et cetera, et cetera. So they saw all that, and that was one of the reasons she got pushed back. But from the faculty, from the student body, she was receiving criticism and anger because she had the audacity to call the police on this destruction. It was a lose-lose when you try to play into kind of the left mindset. This period has taken a considerable toll on my family, as it has for others in our community. Over the summer, I've been able to reflect and have decided that my moving on at this point would best enable Columbia to traverse the challenges ahead. I'm making this announcement now so the new leadership can be in place before the new term begins. Talk about waiting to the last minute, though. I wonder when school begins. It's not as if she gave them a lot of wiggle room. In her letter, she said she is leaving the prestigious school to return to the United Kingdom, where she spent most of her career. She is going to be a foreign secretary a gig with its foreign secretary as a chair, tasked with reviewing the government's approach to international development. Yeah, that seems appropriate. I've tried to navigate a path that upholds academic principles and treats everyone with fairness and compassion. It has been distressing for the community, for me as president, and on a personal level, to find myself, colleagues, and students the subjects of threats and abuse. So what is she saying there? Is she saying that she was upset that the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel protesters were receiving criticism? or is she finally sticking up for the Jewish students on college campuses? Now, Dr. Katrina Armstrong, the CEO of the Columbia University Irving Medical Center, will be stepping in as interim president. I don't know how bad I'd want that job. She said, as I step into this role, I'm acutely aware of the trials the university has faced over the past year. We should neither understate their significance nor allow them to define who we are and what we have become. The community, however, is not convinced the change in leadership will have any effect on stopping last year's chaos. I'm not going to go into what the students had to say, but one did comment saying, so close to the beginning of the school year, it feels a little daunting. Yeah, I'd imagine, but as Mike Johnson said, Speaker Johnson said it's long overdue. As a result of President Shafiq's refusal to protect Jewish students and maintain order on campus, Columbia University became the epicenter for anti-Semitism that has plagued many American university campuses since Hamas's barbaric attack on Israel last fall. Jewish students at Columbia, beginning this school year, should breathe a sigh of relief. We hope that President Shafiq's resignation serves as an example to university administrators across the country that tolerating or protecting anti-Semites is unacceptable and will have consequences. Elise Stefanik, who was celebrated for her grilling of these university presidents, said, 3 down, so many more to go. Adding that her failed presidency was untenable and that it was only a matter of time before her forced resignation. We will continue to demand moral clarity, condemnation of anti-Semitism, protection of Jewish students and faculty, and stronger leadership from American higher education institutions. All right. By the way, CNN's actually asking the question. I've never seen this before. It's not to say they don't do this, but they're reaching out to people that go to CNN's website and saying, how did participating in the Israel-Gaza campus protests affect your job prospects? So I think they may kind of see the writing on the wall, something that we talked about so extensively at the time here on the program, that even if you weren't involved in these anti-Israel protests, if someone goes to an employer looking for a job and says, oh yeah, I just graduated from Columbia, is that person that's doing the hiring maybe thinking in the back of their mind it's not worth vetting this person, looking and seeing if they're part of these anti-Israel protests? And we heard from some very important business owners, CEOs, and like that said the exact same thing. It's not worth the hassle. There's many great universities out there that we can look to that weren't involved in this kind of anti-Semitism. So CNN's asking you if you were involved, how it affected you. Some student protesters faced repercussions, including arrests, sanctions, and deferred diplomas. And several universities canceled classes and graduation ceremonies in response to the widespread demonstrations. Whether your participation in campus protests affected your job prospects or your life was impacted in other ways, we want to hear from you. Have you had a job offer rescinded because of your activism? Were you asked about your activism during the interview process, or have you faced obstacles in other areas of your life because of it? So they're looking at it as probably a way to attack the companies that wouldn't hire someone involved in these protests. But I found that very interesting that CNN's asking that question when we were asking it and really giving the answer months ago, knowing that full well it was going to affect, unfortunately, some that didn't protest, but those that did protest as well. By the way, this is not just on college campuses, as we have mentioned numerous times in the past. Did you see that? What they're calling disorganized, but there was a New York Democrat rally. It was in the city, of course. The rally was to endorse Harris, but there wasn't an official DNC member there, and they even put on the posters announcing this a photo of Harris and Walz, who were not there, never planned on attending. So it went into what the media would call, if it were Republicans, chaos. Several demonstrators against Israel's military campaign in Gaza were booted from the Democrat gathering in Harlem, where Mayor Eric Adams gave an impassioned speech. Make sure you vote, he said, as the disruptors were dragged from the tiny venue in Upper Manhattan. Very weird rally and get-together. Hochul was there. at this small event. Everyone that's on this stage right now comes from different political spectrums. We don't always agree on the same thing, but the ability to know when you are in a real fight, this is a real fight. Afterwards, the protesters continued with their destruction. I believe there were arrests. The angry mob of around 50 protesters even stormed into the restaurant, bird in hand, on Broadway as stunned patrons looked on. Oh, are we going back into that, where random eateries are just chosen to have protests? Oh, interesting. Other videos show cops taking rabble-rousers into custody as a crowd circled the police. Whistles and horns sounded off, and smoke bombs were also set off during the brouhaha. At one point, authorities chased after a protester on Broadway during a brief encounter. Listen to what the one poster said, the anti-Israel poster, because again, it was Van Jones, a Democrat, of course, a former Obama advisor, who said the Democrat Party is marbled with this anti-Semitic bigotry. So that's what these protesters, they don't like Harris or Walz because they are not for complete, they're not complete anti-Israel. No votes, this is what the sign said, no votes for Bombala's genocide. Instead of Kamala's, bomb, like dropping a bomb, Bombala's genocide. Wow. So it's interesting to see and to see what this means for the vote in November, and also what it means for the Democratic National Convention coming up next week about these protests, because these anti-Israel protesters, which has become a very large part of the Democrat Party, not happy with Harris. Imagine that the Harris and Walz aren't extreme enough on this position, but that's where they're at. It's one protester said, it's cute to see an event organized with zero DNC representation being headlined by Mayor Adams, who to this day refuses to criticize Trump, pretending to be a supporter of the Democrat Party. The source also noted that Harris and Walz were absent despite being prominently featured on the event's flyer and confusing some who attended the rally. The Veep hopeful spoke in Boston yesterday. Anyway, enough on that. One last thing on an update on this, because I know I'm running late. Then we're going to move along to the presidential race, more of the presidential race. Remember when Hochul said we're going to have the discussion about masks because these violent anti-Israel protesters, like we saw outside this Democrat, I don't know what you'd even call it, campaign rally, I don't know what it would be called, party to endorse Harris and Walz. When you saw the destruction on college campuses and in the streets, very often they're wearing masks. The masks could be like bandanas and have a saying on them, a slogan. They weren't for COVID or some type of infectious disease at all. It was to cover up their face because they didn't want to get in trouble. Well, Hochul, of course, has done nothing about it. It was kind of a talking point for a while, but they knew if they kept quiet and said they were doing something, it would go away. Well, at least Nassau County stood up. They have signed the first mask ban in U.S. law, sparking controversy. Is it sparking controversy? Nassau County, New York, implemented a controversial ban on wearing face coverings in public on Wednesday. Now, this wasn't controversial before COVID. And also, there's a caveat in the rule that it's, for health reasons, you're, of course, allowed to. It's a misdemeanor for anyone to wear a facial covering to hide their identity in public. People who defy the law could be sentenced up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine, although there are some exceptions for health or religious reasons. How do you like that? Oh, there are some exceptions, but still controversial. Opponents of the bill have described it as a dangerous misuse of the law to score political points and target protesters. And we know that these protesters are wearing the mask for a reason, so they can do as much destruction as possible and not receive any type of punishment. But the sad thing is, even if they have their faces clear as day, probably not going to receive any punishment anyway. Keep those comments coming in. We got to take a short break. We're going to move on to the presidential race. I didn't mention this, but there is no Steuben Senior Services Fund interview today. We will have interviews next week. There's been so much, and we haven't had a chance to completely cover some of the issues, so I wanted to take a step back, and I hope that's okay with you. But I need you to do the heavy lifting, so keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Adam.
And I'm
For over 40 years, the Blaze Alexander family dealerships have been making car buying easy, affordable, with respect for your time.
And we do that by treating all of our customers like family.
By making sure you get the lowest rates, biggest discounts, and most for your trade.
By providing clean, comfortable, and convenient service.
By offering the largest selection of new and pre-owned vehicles every day. Visit a Blaze Alexander family dealership,
Where we're taking the deals,
the other guys won't.
Race car drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Just look at the difference. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99. But wait, Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0371 or visit getangelview.com. Order now.
Super Bowls aren't given, they're taken.
To come up short of a goal, of a dream, it's not fun. It's life, man. Life's tough. It's all about how you respond.
Way to big dog in his fight.
Brock Purdy and the 49ers begin their road back.
Oh my goodness!
Against Alvin Kamara and the Saints.
To the end zone! Touchdown Saints!
Preseason football, Sunday at 8 Eastern.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's go back to viewer comments. Frank, I applaud the President of Colombia for stepping down and returning to the United Kingdom. This should be what everyone that doesn't like America or American values, that's what they should do. Leave the country and go somewhere else that has values you believe in. Thank you, Ken. That's a very good comment. Another comment from a different viewer regarding the protesters. Shouldn't they be referred to as racist? Yes. To the best of my knowledge, they are just a bunch of hooligans with no direction or thought about what they are doing. Hooligans is a good word. But I do believe there's direction and thought in what they're doing. It's anti-Israel. It's calling for the destruction of Israel. And I believe there's some big money, as we've talked about in the past, and I know New York posted a good expose on it. There is some big money behind these organizations. So unfortunately, there are some young people that got caught up in this and just wanted to do the cool thing that, yeah, they had no direction or thought in what they were doing. But a big chunk of these protesters very much know what they're calling for and what they're doing, and that is the total destruction of Israel. But thank you for the comment. Another comment. If the major media was actually legitimate, they would pursue who was actually running the country. It's obviously not the president. That's the biggest question and biggest story of the decade. Yes, and I would argue biggest scandal. There is a article by Joe Concha, which we'll get to later on in the program, hopefully. I shouldn't say that unless I know. Biden is president in name only, so Harris can duck blame for their joint debacles. Meaning, obviously, kind of an interesting headline there. But what they're saying, obviously, is Biden's only there to basically fill the seat so that Harris can do the, as the media puts it, U-turn on her past policies in such a nice way that no Republican would ever be given the benefit, a U-turn from her policies. So yes, it is one of the biggest stories and one of the biggest scandals of the decade, the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental acuity. Absolutely. So, oh, wow, look at this. We have so many comments coming in. We'll get to those in the next break because I am already running late. Just as an update from a story I brought to you, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. Celebrities could influence the presidential election. according to a new Harvard study. Now, this doesn't come as a surprise. We had that article earlier in the week by Ricky Schlott saying the same thing, that it's sad, it's depressing. I mention this to you because it's something that we need to take seriously. While some polling shows that people claim they aren't influenced by celebrity voices when it comes to politics, more rigorous evidence indicates that these voices are incredibly powerful, said the Harvard's Ash Center for Democratic Governance. The potential impact is why nonprofits, candidates, and elected officials are increasingly seeking ways to engage celebrities. It's so funny because they try to suggest, listen, we know where the celebrities go. If you want to keep your job, if you want to continue to be a huge music star or a huge actor or actress, you have to vote or you have to endorse Democrat. As a matter of fact, we saw this in the past with Taylor Swift, where she was receiving criticism for not endorsing anybody at all. So it's not just sit on the sidelines and say, hey, I'm a musician. She ended up endorsing Democrats a long time ago, but this was years ago. But she started receiving pushback because she wasn't loud enough, using her soapbox. Make no mistake, I believe she supported the Biden-Harris ticket back in 2020, so I do believe she will again this time. But they try to say, well, it's both sides. Listen to this, and I'm not knocking who we had at our convention. I thought it was a great convention. But despite often rallying against celebrity culture, the Republican Party officially nominated former reality TV star Donald Trump as this presidential candidate. The party's convention in Milwaukee last month featured rapper Kid Rock, wrestler Hulk Hogan, and country singer Lee Greenwood. All very respectable, very interesting speeches. I guess Kid Rock didn't give a speech, but those, I guess by definition, celebrities, sure. But then they go on to mention who's going to be at the convention or who has supported Harris, and it's the big names currently. So this whataboutism, I don't know. Any way to knock Republicans, but something that we have to take seriously, folks. Just something to mention. Speaking to that, Speaking to that viewer's comment, though, about the president and his mental health and not really running the country. Now that he's not running for re-election, if I can show you the media bias for just a moment. Now that he's not running for re-election, the DOJ suddenly located the Biden biographer transcripts created by Robert Hur. What's the chances? How many times have we done this on the program? What's the chances they just happen to find it? During an ongoing lawsuit aimed at forcing the Justice Department to produce records from special counsel Robert Hur's probe into Joe Biden's handling of classified documents before being elected president, the DOJ revealed the discovery of 117 pages of transcribed discussions between the president and his ghostwriter. The find was highlighted Wednesday by the Oversight Project. Well, isn't that nice? Just happened to find the transcripts now that he's no longer an entity, now that he's no longer who the Democrat Party supports. The timing, impeccable. We got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Stock up for summer and save at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. Svedka Vodka, normally $20.99, is on sale for $18.99. Save up to $24 on a case with mail-in rebate. Your final cost, $12.99 per bottle. 1.5-liter Woodbridge wine, regularly $11.99, is on sale for $9.99. Save with a rebate of up to $24 on a case. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines and Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
It's time for the world's fastest, most extreme sport, the NHRA on Fox.
We're going to give it every single ounce that we have this weekend.
It's coming down just to the wire. We're all feeling it.
Gone like a shot.
You got to bring it all.
This ain't just racing. The NHRA on Fox.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. What did you think? I'm sure you've seen this by now, but RFK Jr., it's kind of getting weirder yet again. He sought a meeting with Kamala Harris to discuss a cabinet job in exchange for an endorsement. Talk about slimy. Now we're seeing the real Kennedy side come out. It's very odd. So, now some media reporters are saying, well, remember he met with Trump too. Was it in the same fashion? This goes to show, and we've been talking about it on the program for quite some time, I truly believe he was obviously more Democrat line than he was Republican. But anyway, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. attempted to arrange a meeting with Harris last week in which he would offer to drop out of the race and endorse her in exchange for a spot in her administration, potentially a cabinet-level position. But Harris has not demonstrated any interest in meeting with Kennedy, let alone taking him up on the offer. From the beginning of the campaign, we were saying people should be talking to each other, Kennedy said. That is the only way of unifying the country. So if you notice it, notice what he's saying there. Not denying it, just saying we want to talk. The 70-year-old White House hopeful argued that it would be a strategic mistake for the Harris campaign to not consider his proposal. I think they ought to be looking at every opportunity. I think it's going to be a very close race. So really, a Democrat this whole time. A spokesman for the Kennedy campaign suggested the independent candidate is open to making the same proposal to Trump. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, now we're seeing the real Kennedy come out. Okay. Going back to the issue that we've had so many viewers comment on, which is how are Democrats okay with not having a say in who their nominee is? And again, I believe it all goes back to the fact that as long as it's not Trump, they don't care, right? And they're happy because it brought, quote, new energy into the race. But some are saying it's undemocratic and, you don't have a say in who the nominee is. But going back to that point, remember, that is a talking point that they're going to save democracy. Democrats are now trying to block the Green Party from the presidential ballot in Wisconsin. An employee of the Democratic National Committee filed a complaint Wednesday seeking to remove the Green Party's presidential candidate from the ballot in Wisconsin, arguing that the party is ineligible. It's the latest move by the DNC to block third-party candidates from the ballot, because if they don't believe their own voters should have a say in the process, why do they think anybody who would support the Green Party should have a say? It goes back to trying to keep Trump off the ballot, the lawfare, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to take them seriously on the threat to democracy issue. As I mentioned, Democrats are trying to take Robert F. Kennedy Jr. off the ballot in many states, and because they see that more Democrats would go to RFK Jr., as we had said for quite some time. But the Green Party's appearance on the presidential ballot could make a difference in swing state Wisconsin, where 4 of the past 6 presidential elections have been decided by between 5,700 votes and about 23,000 votes. Jill Stein is expected to officially become the Green Party's presidential nominee at its national convention, which begins on Thursday, which begins today. The Associated Press left email messages with the Green Party and Stein's campaign Wednesday afternoon. So again, just to read that headline, Democrats are trying to block the Green Party from the presidential ballot. So if they don't believe their own party should have a say, why should they believe the American voter should have a say and perhaps opt for Jill Stein? Okay, I know we're jumping around a lot this morning. Keep those comments coming in. Thank you. Have you seen out of New York, real quick, and this does tie in with presidential politics, so bear with me. Have you seen that 11-year-old boy that was arrested in New York City. It's an 11-year-old boy, barely 4 foot tall, dressed like he's ready to play in a youth soccer game. Why was he arrested by the NYPD? For allegedly committing a violent mugging. He wasn't just an accomplice either. This 11-year-old, wasn't an accomplice. He was the main aggressor, beating the victim when he tried to get his phone back. Now, according to the New York Post editorial board, the Biden-Harris administration and the liberal laws are directly responsible for this tragedy. And you can point to immigration. You can point to also here in New York and the policies supported by the likes of Harris, the bail reform. We've talked about this in the past. We talked about it with Sheriff Allard numerous times and Sheriff Strom. We had the story in New York City where young people, younger than 14 years old, 12 to 14 years old, were going around like Charles Dickens, going around pickpocketing, going into bars and restaurants and stealing purses, stealing wallets. And when they're called out on it, they would say, call the police. There's nothing they can do because of these new laws. But I'm going to continue. Our open borders have become an invitation to gangs from Venezuela, which are setting up shop in hotel rooms paid for by New York City taxpayers, then dispatching members to shoplift or purse snatch from scooters. The young are carefully taught violence and thievery, and they know there's no repercussions. That's why these gangs, and we've talked about it numerous times, are now sending out the youngest in their gangs because they know that if they're successful, they got a lot of money coming in. If they're not successful, not even a slap on the wrist. No repercussions. They're also taught what fools New Yorkers are. Adults are barely prosecuted for larceny, never serve jail time, and there's no chance of deportation. So what chance is there that a kid will face any sort of consequence? Absolutely none. Child services, overwhelmed, understaffed, and poisoned by an ideology that says children should never be removed from their parents no matter how terrible the environment. Democrats have given absolutely no thought to how millions of migrants will be integrated into society. In fact, they encourage illegal behavior, such as working without permit or visa. So our hotels have become, they mentioned a Charles Dickens type tragedy with bloodthirsty cartels and child criminals. This poor kid is a victim. The person who was beaten and robbed was a victim. We are all victims of a perverse system being encouraged by our leaders who care not one whit about any of this. So 11-year-old boy, barely 4 foot tall, being arrested for being the main aggressor in a violent mugging, thanks to the Biden-Harris immigration policies and liberal laws that protect the criminals, coddle the criminals, and really attack the law-abiding citizen and attack law enforcement. We got to take a short break, tie back that into a recent poll, and then we're going to talk more about, obviously, the campaigns. So stay with us. Just getting started, about 15 minutes left in the first hour. Yeah, exactly 15 minutes. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hustleton's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hustleton's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hustleton's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hustleton's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustleton's.
Whether of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better. My back feels better. It makes me feel stronger, too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper Quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. As I mentioned, we do not have a Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program this morning because I wanted to spend the time with you and play a little catch-up. I do have a couple of announcements we're going to get to. I'm going to probably mention a few times because it is very important. You recall earlier in the week we were talking about India Days, which is coming up on Saturday here in Centerway in Corning. There has been a change due to weather. It has now been moved to the morning. So if you plan on going, and I'm going to mention this quite a few times between today and tomorrow because I don't want someone showing up at the original time. The Southern Tier India Cultural Association we'll be holding India Day again Saturday at 10 a.m. now in Centerway Square in Corning because it is supposed to get nastier weather-wise later in the day. So we'll continue to highlight that, but please pass the word along. Okay. Here we go. So many comments coming in. Boy, we're having a fun show this morning, but the problem is when we have this much fun, it goes so quickly. Okay, here we go. First up, could it be that the reason they magically just discovered the transcripts, yes, the Biden transcripts, is to send a message to Biden in response to him slapping the Democrats by naming Kamala as his successor? That's a very good point. The message could be, do what we tell you to do, or we will and can damage you and your families. Yes, there's already talks about him somewhat snubbing Kamala and the Democrats, or not Kamala, but the Democrats in general at the DNC. Yes, he's going to give a speech, but maybe avoiding certain people on certain days when they're going to speak. So yes, that is a good point. This is still maybe hey, remember, don't get too wild. It's alleged by anonymous sources, so you know what I think about anonymous sources, but it has been alleged that he endorsed Harris because he wanted to show one last power move to the Democrat elite because they wanted somebody else. Rumor had it that Obama wanted Mark Kelly, but that he was saying, okay, you're going to stab me in the back. I mean, him and Nancy still aren't talking. They're not friends any longer. So saying the way out the door, okay, you don't want me to be it? We're going to make it tough for you, and we're going to pick Harris. Now, he knew this. I'm sure the people around him knew this, that the media were going to prop her up and pretend that all the things they said bad about her in the past, meaning that she wasn't a good candidate and things like that, they're going to pretend that's all over now. It's finally, with the reins off of the White House, she can finally be who she is, and we've seen all the headlines. He didn't take that into account, but it's still an uphill battle. So the way out the door, he said, aha, I got you. So this could be, okay, you want to keep doing that, Biden? Remember, we can damage you and your family. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Thank you. I don't disagree whatsoever. Another comment from a viewer. I envision that someplace there's a vape-filled room of focus group people sitting around a table, each with a phone and laptop connected to big donors that are actually running the country. You know, that's a good point. I like the fact that it's now vape-filled room. What kind of vape are you referring to, by the way? But yes, no longer cigar-filled room. Okay, that's too bad. That's the way of the world. But they, I think I know that Kamala keeps pointing to, or Harris, however probably Harris is more respectful, but saying that Trump is doing everything for big money donors. Her campaign and this race is based on big money donors, because who had more say than the actual voters of the Democrat Party? Big money, because big money was one of the very helpful aspects of getting Biden out when the money started drying out. So then when Harris gets the nod, they dump a ton of money into her campaign so they can show the momentum and look how much power she has and look how excited people are behind her. So there's never been a presidential race where big money donors have had more say in perhaps the history of this country. So for her to point to Trump making policies for big donors, pretty disingenuous. Her whole campaign is based on the fact that big money donors got her in there. But I like the vape-filled room. Okay, next up. The Democrats, a different comment. The Democrats, by trying to get independents off the ballot, I believe, are hoping that those who would have voted for an independent will vote Democrat. At face value, it could be construed that things are not going as well for the Democrats as the media would have us believe. Yeah, I would agree with that. I just think it goes back to they want to make sure that the least amount of voters have a say or have a chance to vote for anybody else but them. The party that was going to save democracy. Before we take our last break in this hour, a majority of Americans want troops sent to border, and they oppose illegal immigration. I bring this up after that tragic story of that 11-year-old migrant who was the main aggressor in a violent mugging in New York City, and how the cartels, because of the open porous border policies of this administration, the gangs have infiltrated and have a very good, really good plan if you're a criminal, which is send the young people out. They'll get in absolutely no trouble, because like the New York Times or the New York Post said, if grown-ups don't get in trouble for this type of thing, you think an 11-year-old's going to? Well, that would tie in why this poll is suggesting that the majority of Americans want troops sent to the borders. Polls are consistently showing two key indictments on the Biden-Harris administration's border policy. Americans not only overwhelmingly oppose illegal immigration, but also want troops sent to the southern border and keep the border, or make the border, I should say, secure. Two new recent polls support this trend. Although polls have consistently shown that Americans overwhelmingly disapprove of Vice President Harris's job as border czar, a new Napolitan news service poll found that 84% of registered voters believe illegal immigration is bad for the United States, compared to only 12% who say it is good. I don't want to get into all this because these are all numbers that we know. Does that equate, though, at the voting booth? Does that all play out? Because, again, the media, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the media just has to get this into the barn. They just have to run out the clock and not ask Harris tough questions, not expect a press conference. If she does do one interview before the end of the month, think of that. What does she have to hide? I don't know. But if she does do one, it'll be such a sunshine and rainbows type interview, because they just, the same groups that covered up Biden's mental health for 3.5 years, it's not going to be too tough to have them cover up the negatives of Harris for the next 2.5 months. And again, ignore her past policies, saying such nice things as, oh, it's a U-turn now. Ignore her past policies. Also, ignore the things that they were so critical of, and the media not that critical of, but enough, because they didn't want her to be the nominee back when there was talks of Biden dropping out, when there could actually be a primary and voters would actually have say in who their candidate would be. They didn't want Harris because they thought she'd be devastating to the ticket, that she does not give a good, let me rephrase that. Off the cuff, she doesn't give a good speech. She doesn't do good in debates. Now, a lot of people are saying, wow, her speeches are really good. Yes, a teleprompter speech, which is not a knock on her. Many politicians use a teleprompter. But that is a lot different than thinking on your feet and acting on your feet. That was a tangent, but the media is fine with it. So we got more comments coming in. I got to take our last break of this hour. We are moving fast. Stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on Big Fox.
Hi, I'm Suzanne. Welcome to Pangea Global Tea House.
Pangea Global Tea House offers comfort foods of the world. Over 50 teas, a sampling of cuisine from over 10 countries. Globally inspired cuisine and striving to give you an ultimate experience. Come in and try the frankly delicious Turkey Club special for just $20, including your beverage of choice. Pangea Global Tea House. Yet a really good tea house bringing you the flavors of the world, offering something for everyone.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we wrap up our number one. We received this comment from a viewer. Is President Trump still doing rallies for his campaign on the campaign trail? And if so, I never see them advertised on TV, like when he's going to be and where he's going to be, not even on Fox stations and the like. So I wonder if you could let me know. Yes, he is still doing rallies. There is some criticism among Republican circles right now that he is not doing as many as he did in 2016. That they'd like to see him out there more. But actually on Saturday, he's going to hold a rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So not that far away. But yes, he is still holding rallies. I think you're not going to see the media cover it like they did in 2016 or perhaps even a little bit 2020 because they realized how damaging it was to the Democrat that was running, in that case, Clinton. So you're not going to see, other than on conservative outlets, you're not going to see the full rally. I know there's YouTube channels and things like that that'll show them. You're not going to see that. Yeah, they'll show clips if they think Trump said something negative, but the days of getting a full rally are going to be pretty rare. And that's not speaking to Fox, that's the others, but because I know in the past, the mainstream media in 2016 brought up the full rallies often. Yeah, you're not going to see that anymore. As for the advertising of it, I know I'm thrown off by that. You really have to check Trump's website because every once in a while I'll just find out either later or midstream, so to speak, that he was giving a rally and I'll end up trying to watch some of it. So I would recommend going to his website for events or just, I guess, keep an eye on some of your trusted outlets like right here at Fox. Okay. Oh, another wave. Thank you. That's it for this hour. 1 hour left together. Don't go anywhere. Keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in. We're having a blast this morning on your August 15th. It is 6:58. Hour number one in the books. Hour number two, mere moments away. Stay with us.
Wow. You found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
I'm Mary. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Hour number two of Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on historic Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've had a wonderful first hour, and I expect the same from the second hour, so keep those comments coming in. A couple of quick announcements. First off, if you did not hear, I know we talked to representatives from STICA earlier in the week about India Day. Because of inclement weather headed our way, it has been moved till 10 a.m. I just want to highlight that because I don't want anybody showing up in the storm at 4 p.m. or whatever time it was originally scheduled for. So 10 a.m. at Centerway Square in Corning. Also, another announcement that I wanted to highlight. We've heard from quite a few viewers that were curious about their voter registration, that they were having issues confirming whether they were registered to vote. Well, Steuben County sent this to me, but it is applicable to Chemung and anywhere else in New York State. You can look up your voter registration. Here it is on your screen. That is the website. And I also highlighted there that the deadline for voter registration, absentee, or early voting by mail applications for the November 8th general election is October the 26th. So October the 26th. So if you are not registered to vote, you still have time. I would say plenty of time, but don't wait. Get it done today. But if you know that you signed up and you're pretty sure that it should have been confirmed, well, there is the website. I'm going to keep that up on the screen for just a moment so you have a chance to write it down. Just because I had so many viewers as of late, like really recently, say that maybe they had changed because they moved or whatever the case may be, and they're not sure if it has all been confirmed. So you can look it up there and see where you are registered, your house and area and all that. Okay. Did I do that long enough? I think we did. If you missed it, let me know. Text me, and I will send you that website. So 24 full days, entering our 25th. Kamala Harris has not held a press conference since emerging as a presumptive Democrat nominee. So full 24 days as of Wednesday without holding a formal press conference as we enter day 25. But yet not the criticism. I got to be fair here. There's been a little pushback. And when I say little, let's go back in time, shall we? When Biden wasn't giving press conferences and Obama wasn't giving as many press conferences as the media would like, or being as transparent as they would like, what the media would normally do about once a quarter, send a letter and say, we want you to be more transparent. We want more press coverage. And then they did their due diligence in their mind and they moved away. And they didn't bring it up anymore. They didn't do pushback. That's what I think we're seeing right now is, can't you do an interview? Can't you do a press conference? And then, hey, they can tell conservatives, look, I asked, I tried. And they don't really have to push. And I believe that's what we're seeing from Mr. Jim Acosta from CNN Newsroom. Acosta asked Harris's communications director, Michael Tyler, quote, I'm sure this is not going to be the first time you've heard this question, but the Trump campaign is also going after the vice president for not doing enough interviews, for not holding a press conference. Would it kill you guys to have a press conference? Why hasn't she had a press conference? So again, he did his due diligence. Now he can say he tried. He really spoke truth to power. He doesn't care at the end of the day. But Tyler said, listen, the vice president and Governor Walz have been busy crisscrossing this country because in today's day and age, you can't do both. You can't give a media interview or do a press conference from a different location than what? Directly Washington? But anyway, since the launch of this campaign and adding a Governor Walz to the ticket, you saw the ways in which they went across the battleground states last week, generating rallies of thousands, 10,000 here, 15,000 there. So Acosta said, but Michael, you know a campaign rally is not a press conference. Do you mind if I cut in? I mean, do you... That's a statement that's never been said to a Republican by a media representative. Do you mind if I cut in? I mean, campaign rally is not a press conference. Why hasn't she had a press conference? She's the vice president. She can handle the questions. Why not do it? Well, can she? I mean, I don't know if you can state that unequivocally if you're Mr. Costa, because we haven't seen. What was the last time she really gave a press conference? I think they said like 2021 or something wild like that, but I'll continue. We absolutely are going to, said Tyler. You hear her take questions as she's out on the stump. And as she said last week, we're going to have a sit-down interview here before the end of the month. I don't know if that means here at CNN. Could be. By the end of the month. A sit-down interview, folks. The cookie-cutter, most basic thing you could do, which she knows will be an easy interview. She still can only confirm one in a month. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I apologize, but Joe Sempolinski, when he was in Congress, was giving interviews and press conferences right up until the last moments of his time in office. That's the 23rd Congressional District. He was giving interviews time and time again. She can't, as Vice President of the United States, number one, but also number two, as the candidate who was never actually primaried, who never actually, in this go-around, who never actually was voted on by Democrats to be the nominee, is the nominee, she can't answer questions to the press, but ultimately to the American people? Because we all know, and Mr. Costa here is kind of beating around the bush, a press or a rally with a telepromptered speech is not the same as, for instance, when Trump gives a press conference. You've seen those where it can be questions from all over the place. Sometimes that's what some members of the media like to do, as a matter of fact, ask you something that they think will stump you to make you look foolish and say, oh, Trump didn't know this. Now, Harris would never have it that bad, but she would perhaps be asked some tough questions about, like, hey, do you have any policy? Could you tell us what you've changed on? Could you tell us what you're running on your platform? She wouldn't get it as tough as a Republican press conference, but still. So it costed at least asking, would it kill you guys to have a press conference? And he doesn't agree to a press conference. He says, well, we're going to do a sit-down interview before the end of the month. Acosta said, one interview by the end of the month, that is not a lot. Can you commit to a press conference by the end of the month? Tyler said, quote, we will commit to directly engaging with the voters. They're actually going to decide this election, and that is going to be complete with rallies, with sit-down interviews, with press conferences, with all the digital assets at our disposal. We are running a campaign that is built to communicate with the voters. A campaign that is built to communicate to the voters by not giving press conferences, by not being interviewed, etc. Explain that to me. That is typical politician speech. So again, it's totally fine. It seems to be totally fine with Democrat voters. It seems totally fine with the media. But I think it goes to the point, what are you scared of? Because I think the American people, who have for the last 3.5 years been told, the president is okay mentally, the media covering up for him, wouldn't it have been nice to maybe have more interviews? I mean, maybe even that interview at the Super Bowl, which would have been a sweetheart interview that he didn't do. I mean, shouldn't we demand, after that scandal in the White House, shouldn't the American people demand, or the press demand, more specifically, transparency? When there was such a lack of transparency for the last 4 years about the President of the United States' mental health, shouldn't there be some type of transparency from the woman who is running for President of the United States on the Democratic ticket who did not receive a vote for that exact position? So maybe we have some questions other than the rallies and the telepromptered scripts that she reads from. Sports media personality Stephen A. Smith was on his program, on his podcast, and he said, we had 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and 1 day since Joe Biden stepped aside. The only darn place we've seen Kamala Harris is at pep rallies. What's up? Somebody's got to say something, and it can't just be the conservatives. Right is right. Good for Stephen A. Smith. It can't just be the conservatives. It should be the media pushing back on this. It should be the Democrat voters pushing back on this as well, after such a lack of transparency over the last 3.5 years. The voters should demand transparency. He continued, I'm talking to my sister here. Come on now. You're running for the presidency of the United States of America. You got my vote. You're running for the presidency of the United States of America. What are you hiding for? And I mean hiding in plain sight. Somebody's got to say it. Now, you can't be running for the president of the United States. Not one single press conference, not one single one-on-one sit-down interview where somebody gets to question you about the questions that we ask. That's not fair. That's not fair. If you're a conservative and you're out there lambasting her for it, ridiculing her for it, trying to torment her for it or whatever, it is perfectly within your right to do so. All of you anti-conservative out there, shut up. That's a valid point. It isn't valid to bring up her blackness or Indian heritage and to try to point the finger at that nature. That's nonsense. But to ask her about her record because she's attached to the Biden record is definitely appropriate, especially when you were bragging about that record. Yes. And also, again, and he's right, it is a very fair criticism. So the anti-conservatives or the anti-Trump people can mock it all they want, but they know, like he said, right is right. And this would never stand for a Republican nominee, even a Republican nominee that got the vote of their party. So I thought there are two out of numerous outlets that have said nothing, and that's a podcast from Stephen A. Smith, and Acosta, I think, doing it more to cover his base so he can say that he did it. But that is not what I would consider a huge pushback. but it is maybe, hopefully, the beginning of a groundswell, though I won't hold my breath as we enter day 25 without a press conference from the Democratic presidential nominee. Let's take the first break of the second hour. And when we return, a couple comments. A lot more to talk about. We are firing on all cylinders this morning, so stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
The world's pizza has been baked in ovens made of stone, but you can't put one of those on the countertop in your home. Introducing Paisano, the authentic pizza oven by Granite Stone. Now make the world's most delicious pizza with real stone right in your own home. You simply set it and let it make golden, crispy, extra cheesy stone-baked pies in under 6 minutes. The secret is the dual-controlled heat zones that quickly heat the real ceramic stone up to 800 degrees so you can stone bake just like the pros. Plus, there's no gas, wood, or charcoal needed. Paisano is electric, plug-in, and portable. You can get your Paisano pizza oven for just 4 easy payments of $39.99. And we're gonna drop one payment. You get it all for just 3 easy payments of $39.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free.
Call 1-800-597-7208 or order online at buypaisano.com. Call now.
It's time for the world's fastest, most extreme sport, the NHRA on Fox.
We're going to give it every single ounce that we have this weekend.
It's coming down just to the wire. We're all feeling it.
Gone like a shot.
You gotta bring it all.
This ain't just racing. The NHRA on Fox.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of. Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud. 7 and 7:30 on Big F.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hasselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. Thank you again for joining us on what has been a very exciting Frankly Speaking. More comments from viewers. According to that, and this is in reference to, I believe, Harris's campaign person saying essentially they can't do it all, and that includes a press conference. The Democrats are admitting they can't walk and chew gum at the same time, yet they want to be placed in charge. Thank you very much. A different topic, but a very important comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Off topic, though, I've heard of dredging and creek abatements, but I've not heard of anything about bringing in the Army Corps of Engineers and building dikes along the flood-prone creeks, especially in Woodhull and Jasper. That's a very good point. I know there was some criticism by some of the elected officials of some of the reasons why, like entities like the DEC and others, saying, well, these, and this is not specific to Woodhull and Jasper, just in general, where this can't be done. Let's say we'll use your example, a dike, building a dike. This can't be done because there is a rare, salamander, a rare newt that lives in the area, something like that. I mean, it's kind of that ridiculous. So I'm not sure if that is the exact reason that the dikes have not been built in the flood-prone creeks, but something needs to be done. That's crystal clear. What they're going through is heartbreaking. To think that the school is just about to open at the beginning of the school year after the flood 3 years ago with Tropical Storm Fred. To think that 3 years later, it gets destroyed yet again. And now they're talking about, after all that money to rebuild it, now they're talking about, let's just move it. We can't have this happen every 3 years, and I can't blame them. So thank you for the comment. I have not heard about the Army Corps of Engineers coming in and doing that, but I hope that the fire is lit under the feds and others to finally do something. So I did mention Harris is calling for the federal ban on price gouging to lower costs in her first economic policy speech. Vice President Harris on Friday is expected to call for a federal ban on price gouging to lower grocery prices and everyday costs for Americans in her first economic policy speech in Raleigh, North Carolina. First economic policy speech, 25 days into the campaign. The proposal is part of Harris's effort to prevent corporations in the food and grocery industries from hiking prices on consumers, and is one component of a larger plan she will roll out to tackle high costs and inflation, according to a news release from the Harris campaign. If this is such a cure-all, why wasn't it suggested 3 years ago? Because to me, it seems as if the media and many others are ignoring the fact that she is still a part of this administration and still very much a part of these policies that were implemented by this administration. So, to me, it's hard to take this at face value. As part of her first 100 days in office, the vice president's campaign said she would implement a plan to keep costs down that include authorizing the Federal Trade Commission and state attorney generals to investigate and implement harsh penalties on companies that violate the federal ban, resources that can detect price fixing, and more support for small businesses to potentially grow into competitors of large companies. Harris's policy speech comes as the economy remains a critical issue for voters. An NPR PBS News Marist poll released last week found that Americans trust President Trump over Harris to handle the economy, but opinions were closely split, with 51% saying Trump would be better, while 48% said Harris. Let's just put that in perspective. And again, it's PBS and NPR, so there's not enough salt in the world that you can take that with. Think of what, I don't know, your bank account, however you want to judge it, your grocery bills, what they look like under Trump. And I'll put aside the pandemic. That's once in a lifetime, hopefully, fluke at the very end. But think of those essentially 4 years. And think of the last 4 years. Now, to think that Harris is that close to Trump would make you think that they have done a good job in her campaign and the media has done a good job of trying to distance her from Biden. And that's probably the ultimate goal, to get in 2.5 months, wind down the clock, and at the same time do the quote-unquote U-turns, as one outlet put it. Not painting that in a negative way, by the way. So, again, you would have to ignore what has happened for the last 4 years to believe that she would be better at handling the economy over Trump. But as Josh Christensen from the New York Post put it, Kamala Harris is trying to distance herself from Biden in yet another policy flip-flop. Vice President Harris is furiously trying to distance herself from Biden's record while also disavowing the far-left policies she heartedly embraced just a few years ago. The result is a campaign run entirely on style over substance since Harris took the mantle from Biden just last month, folks. It's been a wild ride, huh? And Democratic campaign operatives warn that she risks voters catching on and realizes she's selling only cynical political opportunism, Quote, "It's a marketing strategy that is TV-esque," said one senior Democratic aide. "With such a short timeline now, policy matters less than personality." So that's why they are pushing, 2.5 months. That's why they're pushing, boy, she's the best. Look at the Time magazine cover. They need to push those optics because they know they only have to do it for 2.5 months. So it's personality over substance. And again, if she can distance herself from Biden and what she pushed through in the last 3.5 years, like, wasn't she the deciding vote on the Inflation Act that caused the inflation she's now putting a policy out to try to fix? It caused a problem, vow to fix it. And the media is allowing it the whole time. She's going to almost exclusively look at a voter like a consumer and sell, the aide quipped. Do I think that's a long-term strategy? No, the aide admitted. But I think the plan is win and figure it out. That sounds about right. Win and figure it out. Another Democratic campaign operative told the Post that Harris was wisely trying to break with Biden's economic policies due to his horrible polling numbers, is prepared to jettison any of their administration's talking points that don't have strong public support. So this is going to be a campaign very much run on polls, very much decided on any which way the wind blows. Harris is also seemingly rejecting a host of her own progressive pet projects she touted in her failed 2020 presidential bid, including support for Medicare for all, banning fracking, and legalizing illegal immigration. Critics attacked Harris from both sides of the party 4 years ago, with the Biden campaign mocking her Medicare flip-flop, and in particular as a, quote, have it every which way plan. And aides for Democrat Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders slamming her policy stances as having been cobbled together to address various poll numbers. Yes, and that's what it's going to look like for the next 2.5 months, any which way the wind blows. As far as Harris distancing from Biden, she was going to do that, the campaign operative said. It wasn't called Harrisflation, the operative added, referencing Bidenflation. Meanwhile, the hits she's taken for being aloof on policy and dodging major media interviews for almost a month after Biden's departure has been strategic on her part, the senior aide said, giving her a chance to get her story straight later. That comes as no surprise. And also, she wants to be, don't think for a moment, she's not practicing very much to get out of the habit of the word salads when she does her interviews. It's no different than Governor Hochul's about face on congestion pricing, said Representative Mike Lawler. She's a fraud. Nobody believes that the economy is in a better position than it was under Donald Trump, he added. And that's why they're peddling the talking points of she brings joy to the race and fun to the race. It was just as fake as the dances she has showed off at campaign events. J.D. Vance said everything about her campaign is fake. She is also reportedly crafting a new image around her relatively humble California roots. Trying to go the Biden route. Okay. The daughter of a working single mom to curry the favor with voters, saying the Harris agenda is about an effort to win the future. Now, a slight plurality of voters trust Harris on economic issues over Trump. Wow. A Financial Times survey found earlier this week. All right. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre confirmed during the daily press briefing that the record was both of theirs. I'm not going to get into polling. What I will tell you is Bidenomics has been something that both the president and the vice president has worked on. Oh, no. I think Biden's being scrappy here on his way out the door. I think he is trying. Yeah, this is all a fun mind game. But you heard me say yesterday that there's a thought out there that the only person that wants Trump to win more than Trump may be Biden, because it would secure his legacy and give him that opportunity of, see, I told you so. And that's a little bit of the thought of why he nominated Harris when the Democratic elites didn't want that, to try to make it tougher on them, saying, see, I still have the power. So if she were to lose, he could come out and say, I told you, I was the only one that had the power to beat Trump, and you wouldn't listen. So maybe now he's saying, hey, make sure you really tie Harris in with my policies. That's, again, Karine Jean-Pierre. I'm not going to get into polling. What I will tell you is Bidenomics, even using that term, Bidenomics has been something both the president and the vice president has worked on. The Democrat operative who spoke with the Post said that some of the economic messaging points may be easier to defend, but the Biden immigration record will stick with her. It's easier to defend Biden's record on the economy. You can point to jobs. You can point to the stock market, lowering the cost of drugs. Immigration is much more difficult. And another stumbling block is the fact that she was the border czar. Anyway, that was just a quick review because I am running late. Stay with us. We've got more on this and getting your opinion on it as we move along. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Adam.
And I'm Aubrey.
For over 40 years, the Blaze Alexander family dealerships have been making car buying easy, affordable, with respect for your time.
And we do that by treating all of our customers like family.
By making sure you get the lowest rates, biggest discounts, and most for your trade.
By providing clean, comfortable, and convenient service.
By offering the largest selection of new and pre-owned vehicles every day. Visit a Blaze Alexander family dealership,
where we're taking the deals
the other guys won't.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel with Japanese-grade steel blades plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss now.
Every day, your game is on Fox. I mean, just feast your eyes on this. Because if baseball is as American as apple pie, then Fox Saturday Baseball was one heck of a slice. And with these guys on the menu, all you gotta do is sit back, relax, and make some room for a big old helping. With a cherry on top. Come on.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on historic Market Street in Corning in the Gafford District, the same Gafford District that will be holding India Day that has now been moved till 10 a.m. in the morning. It was later in the evening, but because of weather, they moved it to 10 a.m. in the morning. Don't forget that, because I know we heard from a lot of viewers that seem very interested in attending on Saturday. Okay. So earlier in the program, we had a viewer talking about really perhaps the biggest scandal in presidential history, which is a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental acuity and the issues that he had there, and asking the question, who's really running the place? Who's running the country? And it's a real serious question when you think about it, because he not only has, it's not like November, the election's over, win, lose, or draw, that he's out. No, it's all the way until January. So a lot, unfortunately, can happen and makes us all nervous. But Joe Concha has this piece, and it ties right in with what that viewer was saying, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Who exactly is running the country? The current president is barely seen. Last week, Biden took a 5-day weekend at his Delaware beach house, again, while Iran threatened to attack Israel, just days after the Dow fell more than 1,000 points in the wake of a lousy jobs report, which, by the way, I think that would be a bigger issue in different circumstances. If they weren't still riding out the Harris momentum, they didn't want to mention the 1,000-point loss. But anyway. On Wednesday, his entire public schedule consisted of a 15-minute drop-by at a White House economic conference and a 4 p.m. meeting to receive his daily intelligence briefing. Yes, 4 p.m. We have a deteriorating president who is in the political version of the witness protection program. He should have resigned from office weeks ago, the minute he announced he wasn't running again. Because, answer this, how can this man be president for the next 5 months when he's technically admitted he can't be president for the subsequent 4 years? In August, thus far, Biden has held exactly one public event outside of the White House, when he flew to New Orleans on Tuesday to a cancer center to talk about his moonshot initiative. Otherwise, for the first half of this month, he spent 8 days lounging on the beach. Meanwhile, Harris, for the last 3 weeks, has stuck to performing the same stump speech as swing state campaign rallies while avoiding any questions of substance. All Americans, regardless of political ideology, deserve so much better than this. And that's why I also point that we're dealing with this from the President of the United States is another reason why we should be demanding transparency from Harris if she thinks she can be the President of the United States of America. Because fool me once, shame on you. She should be... we should, as voters, be demanding, and the media should be as well, transparency because of what we are now going through with the President of the United States. But there's a very good reason why Biden hasn't resigned, says Concha, because unnamed powers in the Democrat Party don't want Harris to be put in a position of responsibility for this administration's disastrous record on the economy, inflation, wages, crime, and the border. And a world, by the way, that is seemingly on fire. If we were talking about President Harris, she would have no choice but to own this train wreck and defend it, having played a big role in creating it as Biden's partner. Quote, as you have seen them in the past 3.5 years, they've been partners, critical partners, said Jean-Pierre, press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. It doesn't matter if it's domestic issues, also foreign policy issues, she insisted. And that has been the case from day one and continues to be the case. Now, President Harris couldn't get away with doing nothing but speeches in places like Michigan and Wisconsin. President Harris would have to actually govern and make decisions and be held accountable through those foreign concepts known as press conferences and interviews. It's also noteworthy that Biden hasn't campaigned with Harris in any capacity. There's good reason for that. His own vice president is running away from him, not only from his personality, or not only from him personally, but from his toxic policies. And why wouldn't she distance herself from debacles like, say, Bidenomics as much as possible? Especially when our corrupt media isn't doing their basic homework to compare the rhetoric of Vice President Harris and candidate Harris. Vice President Harris, on August 2023, said, we are very proud of Bidenomics. Candidate Harris, on August 2024, said, our plans will lower costs and save many middle-class families thousands of dollars a year. Get it? The candidate who has been in power for 3.5 years and who has repeatedly praised the performance of the horrible economy during that time now has a plan to lower costs, but only if she becomes president. You can't make it up. But the media is not showing the voters the truth. All across almost every issue, mostly through unnamed campaign aides, Kamala is running away from her own past policy positions and rhetoric, because these positions are profoundly unpopular with any common sense voter. Banning fracking and fossil fuels won't sit well in Pennsylvania. Mandating electric cars won't fly in Michigan. Abolishing ICE, supporting sanctuary cities, offering free health care to illegals, and raising taxes, all positions Harris has taken loudly and proudly, would be political suicide if she were to double down on them today or in the next whenever. And that's why Biden remains in power, in name at least, because by doing so, Kamala the Chameleon can traipse off on her own version of the Eras Tour, as a fawning media cheers all her talk about the big changes she'll make on day one, despite, having had these years, 3.5 years, to fix the crises she and her boss created. We got to get on a short break. Keep those comments coming in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But right now, we've got to take this break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never going to believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
You is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
Whether because of discomfort
lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation. You sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs. Increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and
And we are back, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. So proud to be with you this morning. Okay, comment from a viewer. People have forgotten that Trump refused to take any money when he was president, and he gave it to others. Yes, his salary he donated to various charities and the like. And he more or less made a remark in one of his speeches that he would do the same again. Yeah, I would expect him not to take a salary. And not to use the office to gain. As a matter of fact, he lost money from being president, if you think of all the boycotts and the things like that. So, yes, good point. By the way, I just saw a piece at the New York Times. Yes, the New York Times. And it's titled, "When Will They Speak Again?" Once close, Biden and Pelosi are at odds. And it's a whole piece about their friendship falling apart because, rightfully so, Biden is upset that Pelosi stabbed him in the back, even though he's loyal to the party for 50 plus years, to oust him, that she turned on him and pressured him to step aside. And so they've been close for 50 years, and now no longer. President Biden is upset that Representative Nancy Pelosi worked to get him out of the race. She is losing sleep over it. No, she isn't. She's a stone cold killer. Some have likened it to a mobster, a Michael Corleone taking out Fredo. It says in the piece, it is not clear when they will speak again. A painful reality that Miss Pelosi admits keeps her up at night. Quote, "I hope so. I pray so. I cry so. I lose sleep on it," she told David Remnick, the editor-in-chief of The New Yorker, earlier this month, when pressed on whether her relationship with Mr. Biden would survive. Well, we got other comments coming in. I'll get to it a little bit. Okay, because it's too tough to read them live on the air. But yeah, the Pelosi and Biden relationship. That's a tough one. Hey, I was surprised by this from CNN. And I try to give you all sides here. The headline this morning threw me off because there hasn't been any kind of criticism of Harris. It's been very much a pro-Harris campaign website every morning when I check it out. But I will mention this as more of being shocked and surprised, but kind of impressed. Tim Walz's 2006 campaign falsely described details about his arrest for DWI back in 1995. We mentioned the DWI arrest. When Democrat vice presidential nominee Tim Walz first ran for Congress in 2006, his campaign repeatedly made false statements about the details of his 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. According to court and police records connected to the incident, Walz admitted in court that he had been drinking when he was pulled over for driving 96 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone in Nebraska. Walz was then transported by a state trooper to a local hospital for a blood test, showing he had a blood alcohol level of 0.128, well above the state's legal limit of 0.1 at the time. But in 2006, his campaign repeatedly told the press that he had not been drinking that night, claiming that his failed field sobriety test was due to a misunderstanding related to hearing loss from his time in the National Guard. Oh, using the National Guard again. Interesting. The campaign also claimed that Walz was allowed to drive himself to jail that night. None of that was true. This seems to be what's the word I want to use? A common trend. Some of the things that have been said, that he has said himself about his National Guard record. I think about that too with the National Guard record. People are questioning whether or not you should question him at all about what he says, about his time that he served. But I think those same people were pretty cool with Dan Rathers and the false documents to allege that George W. Bush had never served an actual day in the Air Force or in the National Guard or whatever it was. They were fine at the time with that. So it's different. It's interesting how there's a different take on questioning of not questioning of military service, but questioning what the person said. Now, of course, Dan Rathers ultimately lost his job over that, if you recall. But it's just interesting, those same people that were pretty cool with that article originally said, well, even though the documents weren't right that Rathers presented, it's still probably true. Do you remember that argument? And I think that's what he said as well. Anyway, so there was controversy about his military service. Yes, the Texas Air National Guard. I was looking for the official title. But anyway, sorry. But there's some questions there. We know that J.D. Vance has been bringing it up about walls and, using, not using, what's the word I want to say? When he said that he carried these guns in war, of course, he was never in war, but to push that to further his political agenda. That's not what I'm talking about here, though. I want to move on. A CNN review of statements made by the Walz campaign at the time revealed numerous discrepancies between how the campaign described the event and the facts of what actually took place that night. Quote, the DUI charge was dropped for a reason. It wasn't true, Wells, then campaign communication director, said in 2006. The trooper had him drive to the station and then leave on his own after being at the station. Tim feels bad about speeding and has paid the ticket and apologized to his family at the time it happened. In fact, the incident's police reports clearly state that Walz was transported by police to a local hospital for blood alcohol testing after being arrested. And this week, Nebraska State Police confirmed to CNN that Walz was taken by a state trooper to jail. Under NSP procedure, a person suspected of impaired driving is not allowed to continue driving, Cody Thomas, a spokesman for the state patrol, said. In this case, the suspect was transported by the trooper and was lodged in Dawes County Jail. Now that Walz is a Democrat nominee for vice president, renewed scrutiny is being paid to the details of his 1995 arrest and how his campaign described the incident a decade later as he launched his political career. Walz has subsequently acknowledged the facts of the case, admitting during his 2018 campaign for governor that he had been drinking and driving. On Tuesday, the Daily Beast published an interview with a state trooper who arrested Walz. He disputed claims that Walz had not been drinking and noted the sobriety test had nothing to do with hearing. The Harris-Walz campaign, you're never going to guess it. When asked for comment, the Harris-Walz campaign declined to comment for the story. I don't want to go into all the specifics, but just seems to be what you would call a common trend in some of Walz's past and how it is presented. Okay, we got to take another short break. It's unbelievable. Tim Walz, though, did pick October 1st as a day for the debate between him and J.D. Vance, but I want you to understand, that sounded lectury. The media is presenting this as a done deal, but Walz picked the October 1st date. J.D. Vance says he wants a real debate with opponent Tim Walz, not a fake news media garbage one. But this is what the New York Post is reporting. Walz posted on X, see you on October 1st, J.D. Minnesota's governor announced his preferred debate date after CBS offered 4 dates between September 17th and October 8th. Now, Vance is eager to debate Walz, though it was not immediately clear if there would be any wrangling over the date before a final agreement. The vice presidential debate is expected to focus on policy differences between the 40-year-old Republican and the 60-year-old Democrat, as well as Vance's allegation that Walz committed stolen valor by misstating his military record. Got a couple last-minute waves coming in here. Thank you. Now, Trump has agreed to additional debates with Harris, as you know, but Harris has not confirmed those dates. I'm happy to have that conversation about an additional debate or after September 10th for sure. So an additional debate, I don't see it happen. But J.D. Vance says he wants a real debate with his opponent. We want to actually look at the debates, look at the moderators, talk about the rules a little bit. I strongly suspect we're going to be there on October 1st, but we're not going to do one of these fake debates where they don't actually have an audience there, where they don't actually set the parameters in a way that we have a good exchange of ideas. In other words, we're not going to walk into a fake news media garbage debate. We're going to do a real debate. And if CBS agrees to it, then certainly we will do it. We got to take another break. Stay with us. Thank you so much for joining us. A little time left together. Get those comments in.
I'm Marion Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel. With Japanese-grade steel blades, plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Boy, I'm looking at the time here. I wanted to get to this. Oh, just keep this in mind when you see kind of what's happening behind the scenes. Former federal prosecutor and NBC legal analyst Glenn Kirshner said on the Dean Obadala show that if Donald Trump loses the 2024 election, he will, quote, spend the rest of his miserable life in court or prison. So the lawfare continues. The threats of lawfare continue, and you've seen at Harris rallies where they chant, lock him up. So as long as Donald Trump loses the election, that Donald Trump will spend the rest of his miserable life in court being prosecuted and ultimately serving prison terms, one after the other. So our job is to just get to the polls and numbers too big to rig and too real to steal. And then everything else will sort itself out. Okay. Too big to steal. So is he suggesting election interference? Boy. I don't know. Is he raising questions about the legitimacy of the race? But also, remember, it all boils down to lawfare. And Andrew McCarthy had a really good point. Prepare for Trump to be sentenced to prison on September 18th. To no surprise, Judge Juan Merkin has yet again denied former President Trump's motion that the judge recuse himself. I'm speaking, of course, about the case in which Manhattan's elected progressive Democrat District Attorney Alvin Bragg is prosecuting Trump. In early June, a jury found the former president and current GOP presidential nominee guilty on 34 counts of business records falsification. You remember that? It seems like so long ago. It's not just that Judge McCann had previously denied the recusal motion. The judge has signaled that come hell or high water, he intends to sentence Trump on September the 18th. Now, if you're keeping score at home, that would be 2 days after early voting in the 2024 election beginning in Pennsylvania. Make no mistake, that will be, in their mind, the final nail in the coffin. They can push Harris over the finish line by running out the clock, just talking about a momentum, not demanding any questions, any press conferences, and then they'll say, well, Trump's also got this prison time, can't campaign, whatever the case, or maybe it's just house arrest, whatever. They're suggesting prison time here. It's all part of a larger picture of the lawfare being used by the party that talks about a threat to democracy. I don't disagree with what McCarthy's saying. I think that could be what they're thinking can put Harris over the edge. The objective here is to enable Vice President Harris and the media Democratic complex to label Trump a convicted felon sentenced to prison just weeks before Election Day, at a time when Americans will already have started voting in many states, not least the potentially decisive Pennsylvania battleground. Prepare for Merkin to deny Trump's immunity claim and strap in for sentencing on September the 18th. What a good point. Now, as we try to present all sides, Megyn Kelly is torching Trump for rambling too much and that it's becoming boring. Now, Nate Silver submitted This is what he said at the time. I would encourage more reporting on, is Trump in some state of decline? I think that's a fair question to ask of any 78-year-old. So Silver initiated that. Here's the problem. It would be easier to accept that if that was ever said in the last 3.5 years about Biden. It's hard to accept that premise from a Nate Silver, right? But Kelly said, that's a fair question. And look, one of the reasons why Trump gets upset with yours truly is because I have been raising that question for a while. And then he has what appears to be senior moments. Wow. Megyn Kelly loves making a name for herself. Trump in 2016, he was tough to lose interest in, and I think that's probably an age-related change. So I think this is one of the challenges of the people around him, who I am sure desperately are trying to get him to stick to message, so that he's bored. Megyn Kelly, and that's, I know who I base my vote on, is bored with Trump for rambling too much. J.D. Vance dismisses criticism of the campaign whining about Harris, saying unfiltered Trump is his own man. And this is a comment that I referenced earlier in the program, and I wanted to make sure that I quoted it exactly. J.D. Vance said, President Trump, the reason people love him is because he's his own man. He's unfiltered, and he lets the American people see who he is. All right, let's take a short break. Read your last-minute comments. You got to get them in. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
It's time for the 205th Steuben County Fair. Celebrate an action-packed week of fun. Catch the Broken Bee Rodeo on Wednesday, Demolition Derby Night on Thursday, Monster and Tough Truck Show on Friday, and Truck and Tractor Pull on Saturday. Come enjoy the carnival, the Midway, tons of free shows, and Demolition Derby finals on Sunday. It's fun for the whole family. For more information, visit us online or like us on Facebook. The 205th Steuben County Fair, August 12th to the 18th in downtown Bath. See you there.
The world's pizza has been baked in ovens made of stone, but you can't put one of those on the countertop in your home. Introducing Paisano, the authentic pizza oven by Granite Stone. Now make the world's most delicious pizza with real stone right in your own home. You simply set it and let it make golden, crispy, extra cheesy stone-baked pies in under 6 minutes. The secret is the dual-controlled heat zones that quickly heat the real ceramic stone up to 800 degrees so you can stone bake just like the pros. Plus, there's no gas, wood, or charcoal needed. Paisano is electric, plug-in, and portable. You can get your Paisano pizza oven for just 4 easy payments of $39.99. And we're going to drop one payment. You get it all for just 3 easy payments of $39.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free.
Call 1-800-597-7208 or order online at buypaisano.com. Call now.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, wrapping up today's edition. Thank you so much for joining us. To the one viewer who sent in a comment, I'm not exactly sure which question means, because I think it got jumbled up a little bit, but the no tax on tips was started by Trump. That was his idea, and now the media is somewhat trying to give credit to Harris. We had a piece from Newsweek, I think it was, where the headline was Kamala Harris's tax policy, and so now it's hers, even though Trump said it long before, gains support from a majority of Republicans. And as one commenter said, yeah, because it's Trump's idea. So I hope that answers your question. Another comment from a different viewer. Actually, I think as soon as Donald Trump loses, they're going to walk away from the trials and the court cases. There would be no need for them to beat a dead horse. The only way they keep pursuing Trump is if there was some sort of huge payday that could put him into the Democratic coffers. Thank you very much. We are almost out of time, so I wanted to mention this by Miranda Devine. And she says the one thing people should know about Donald Trump is that he doesn't choke. Not on the golf course and not in life. That much was obvious when he rose to his feet in Butler, Pennsylvania, after almost being assassinated and raised his fist in defiance. Even champion golfers choke, but not Trump. Self-doubt is not part of his DNA, and he's proud of the fact that when the going gets tough, he's at his best. So when the Monday morning quarterbacks freak out over Kamala Harris's honeymoon polls and start leaking stories about Donald is in meltdown, they're probably mistaking his real-time retooling and wargaming for panic. Case in point, at Trump's rally Wednesday, a liberal enclave in the battleground state, Asheville of North Carolina, he was razor focused on the economy, showing an ability to stay on message that some allies had feared he was incapable of doing. And yes, he had that great line that he promises an end to the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery. But I'll continue. It didn't hurt that the latest consumer price index data that day had highlighted the pain felt by everyday Americans every time they buy groceries, though I noticed the media this morning trying to spin it. The cost of everything is up more than 20% since Biden-Harris took office. Real average weekly earnings fell in July. Unemployment is up. Median household income is down. Credit card debt has hit a record high. You know that Democrats will pull every economic lever available to fake their way to an election win. But you can't fool working families who roll their eyes when they hear the word Bidenomics. The proof that Bidenomics is so bad is that Harris is trying to run away from it. Her campaign told Axios that they're hoping to distance her from Biden's unpopularity on the economy. But she's been in power for almost 4 years. Why not implement her great economic plan today, rather than making people suffer for another 5 months? Trump hammered all these points in Asheville. Vote Trump and your incomes will soar, your savings will grow, young people will be able to afford a home, and we will be able to bring back the American dream bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Under my leadership, the U.S. will commit to the ambitious goal of slashing energy and electricity prices by half, at least half, within 12 months and at a maximum 18 months. And she goes on to quote more and more of this. We just don't have time. But he hammered the cost of living under Bidenomics. The disciplined performance ought to go some way to placating the naysayers who have been concerned that the campaign and Trump have lost their way. Nikki Haley is right that Republicans and Trump need to quit whining and focus on winning instead of trying to belittle Harris. Complaining that Harris doesn't do interviews and that the media is giving her a free ride is pointless. She is getting away with it. I don't think it's pointless, but this is why I read every point. Democrats and their shady partners will never going to let Trump have an easy ride to the Oval Office. Whatever the moment is, Harris is meeting it. It's not AI that is generating big crowds, so it's showing patronizing disrespect to your adversary. Hillary made the mistake when she called Trump supporters a basket of deplorables. So it's a good point. To his family and those who know him, Trump's default is a sunny disposition and a generous spirit. But he has been so demonized, a lot of people don't see it. If Harris steals his policies like no tax on tips, chalk it up as a compliment and a win for the beneficiaries. A confident leader is more appealing than a petty, aggrieved one. Trump is well ahead of where he was in 2020 in the polls and has the advantage that the electorate is looking to his term in office as the golden years. I thought that was a good way to end the program. And you can weigh in on your thoughts at the end, and we'll bring them up on tomorrow's show. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So many great comments. Thanks for all the waves. We will be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. I look forward to it already.